It's 6 p.m. on a Sunday. You are sitting there, phone in hand, waiting. You are waiting for the global electronic markets to open because you know exactly what happened on Friday. You saw the close, 67.14. You went to bed Friday night feeling like a genius. You felt like you finally beat them. You felt like the suppression was over. But then, nothing happens. The screen doesn't flicker. The numbers don't move. You refresh the app once, twice, and then you see it. A small red banner scrolling across the top of your brokerage account. Trading suspended. Market halted. The buy button is grayed out. The sell button is gone. Your money is right there in front of you. A fortune on paper, but you can't touch it. You can't withdraw it. You can't trade it. You are no longer an investor. You are a hostage. Welcome to the Sunday nightmare. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the hidden mechanism inside the exchange rulebook, a trapdoor designed to lock your wealth inside the burning building exactly when you try to leave. This isn't a glitch. It isn't an accident. It is a feature, and it is about to cost you everything. To understand why the doors are locked, you have to understand the crime scene that was left behind on Friday. $67.14 wasn't just a price. It was a mathematical impossibility according to the risk models used by the major bullion banks. For 40 years, the script has been the same. Every time silver approached a critical breakout level, a mysterious wave of selling would appear out of nowhere to crush it back down. It was clockwork. It was predictable. But this Friday, the script broke. The selling appeared just like always, but the market swallowed it whole. The buyers didn't blink. The algorithm failed. And for the first time in history, the shorts ran out of ammunition before the market ran out of money. Now, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the entity on the other side of that trade. You are a major bank. You are short millions of ounces of silver. When the market closed at the highs, you didn't just lose a bad trade. You became technically insolvent. If the market opens on Sunday night and gaps up to $70 or $75, you don't just lose money, you lose the firm. The losses would exceed your Tier 1 capital. You cease to exist. So do you really think they spent this weekend playing golf? No. The lights in the skyscrapers of Manhattan and the offices in London have been burning for 48 hours straight. This has been a weekend of absolute panic. Lawyers are drafting emergency motions. Risk managers are calculating survival rates. CEOs are on the phone with exchange officials and regulators right now. The conversation they are having isn't about how to trade the open. The conversation is, how do we stop the open? Because financial markets hate uncertainty, but they absolutely loathe a disorderly collapse. And letting silver open freely at this level would trigger a chain reaction of margin calls that would wipe out half the street. They cannot afford to let price discovery happen. History has taught us one thing. When the casino is about to lose more money than it has in the vault, they don't keep dealing cards. They turn off the lights. They claim a technical glitch. They invoke market stability. They pause the game until they can change the rules. But make no mistake, this silence you are seeing on your screen, it isn't peace. It is the deep breath before the plunge. We are witnessing a controlled demolition of the free market mechanism, and if you are holding paper contracts, derivatives, or unallocated accounts, you are the collateral damage they are willing to sacrifice to save the system. So how exactly do they do it? How do they legally stop a market that is screaming to go higher? It turns out, they don't need to break the law. They just need to enforce a little-known rule that most investors have never bothered to read. So the market is halted. The screen is frozen. But why? The exchange will tell you it is for market stability. They will use a term called the circuit breaker. It sounds responsible, doesn't it? It sounds like a safety mechanism in your house to stop an electrical fire. But in the financial markets, a circuit breaker does not protect the house. It protects the arsonist. Here is how the limit up rule actually works. The exchange sets a specific price band. Let's say silver is trading at $67. If aggressive buying pushes the price up by a certain dollar amount, say $3 or $5, within a short window, the computer automatically slams the door shut. Trading stops. Now, imagine you are in a casino in Las Vegas. You are sitting at the blackjack table. You are on the heater of a lifetime. You are winning every hand. The chips are piling up like skyscrapers in front of you. You have effectively cleaned out the house. You stand up to cash out your millions. And suddenly, the pit boss walks over, pulls the plug on the lights, locks the front doors, and says, "I'm sorry, sir. You have won too much money too quickly. We are pausing the game for the safety of the casino." That is a limit-up halt. They lock the doors not because the system is broken, but because the system is working too well for you and too poorly for them. And this creates what we call a liquidity trap. When that halt triggers, you are trapped inside the burning building with the very arsonists who started the fire. You see, the bullion banks, the ones who are short billions of ounces, they are technically insolvent at this price. If the market kept trading, they would be forced to buy at any price to cover their lives. That buying would push silver to $100 in minutes. By halting the market, the exchange gives them a timeout. It gives them time to make phone calls, time to arrange bailouts, time to move collateral, time to rig the game for Monday morning. While you are staring at a frozen screen, helpless, unable to sell, unable to hedge, they are backstage changing the scenery. Your stop losses? They are useless. A stop loss requires a market to trigger. There is no market. You are flying blind in a plane with no instruments, and the pilot just parachuted out. But here's the terrifying part. The trading halt is just the beginning. It is just the waiting room. What happens if the market opens, hits the limit again, and halts again? What happens if this goes on for days? What happens when the banks realize they cannot get the silver to cover their shorts because the physical market has vanished? That is when they reach for the nuclear option. It is hidden in the fine print of the futures contract you signed but never read. It is buried on page 45 in a clause that most investors ignore because they think it applies to earthquakes or asteroids. It is a single French phrase that allows them to steal your wealth legally. Force majeure. Force majeure. Superior force. In contract law, this clause is meant to excuse a party from fulfilling their obligations due to an event beyond their control, a war, a hurricane, a plague. But in the precious metals market, force majeure has been weaponized. It has become a loophole for we ran out of silver. Let's take a deep dive into the nightmare scenario. You bought a futures contract for 5,000 ounces of silver. You bought it at $25. The price on the screen is now $100. You did everything right. You identified the inflation, you identified the shortage, and you placed your bet. You are waiting for delivery. You want those 5 wizened ounces sent to your vault so you can protect your family's future. But the exchange doesn't have the silver. The vaults are empty. The banks are naked short. So they declare force majeure. They send you a notification, and this is where the theft happens. They invoke a procedure called cash settlement. Listen to me very carefully because this is the heist. Instead of delivering the 5,000 ounces of silver that is now trading for $100 or $150 on the black market, they forcefully close your contract. They say, "Sorry, we can't give you the metal, so we are going to give you the cash equivalent." But what price do they use? Do they use the real street price of $150? No. They use the official settlement price. Maybe it's the price right before the halt, $67. Or maybe they arbitrarily set a fair value at $70. So they deposit $70 per ounce into your account. You might say, "Well, I still made a profit. I bought at $25. I got paid out at $70. You are missing the point. You didn't buy silver to get more fiat currency. You bought silver to escape fiat currency. You're sitting there with a pile of electronic cash in your account. You try to take that cash to a local coin shop to buy actual silver. but the shop is sold out, or the shop is charging $200 an ounce. Your paper profit is a mirage. You can't buy the metal. You've been forced out of your position. You've been bailed in. This is the perfect crime. They don't default. They don't say, "We are broke." They simply change the terms of the deal. They pay you in the very currency that is collapsing, while they keep the real asset, the metal, for themselves. It is the equivalent of buying fire insurance on your house. Your house burns down. You call the insurance company, and they say, "We can't rebuild your house because there are no bricks left." So here's a check for what your house was worth before the hyperinflation started. You are left homeless with a check that can't buy a tent. This isn't a theory. This is the precedent set by the London Metal Exchange during the nickel crisis. They canceled trades. They rewrote history to save the billionaires. And if you think they won't do it to silver, the most politically sensitive metal in the world, you are living in a fantasy. When the vaults run dry, the rules go out the window. So when that force majeure email hits your inbox, understand what it really means. It means the casino is closed, the chips are worthless, and the only thing that matters is what you hold in your hand. You might be sitting there thinking, "That sounds terrifying, but surely they wouldn't dare. Surely the regulators would step in. Surely the sanctity of the free market is protected by law." If you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you, and I have a date you need to memorize, March 8th, 2022. This isn't a theory. This isn't a prediction. This is a crime scene that already happened. On that Tuesday morning, the price of nickel, a critical industrial metal just like silver, went vertical. It didn't just rise, it teleported. In a matter of hours, it shot up 250%, crossing 100,000 per ton. Why? Because a massive Chinese tycoon known as Big Shot was caught in a massive short squeeze. He owed billions. He was bankrupt. And the banks that backed him, including JP Morgan, were on the hook for his losses. The market did exactly what a free market is supposed to do. It punished the reckless speculator and rewarded the prudent investors who were long. If you had bought nickel futures that morning, you were looking at life-changing wealth. You played by the rules. You took the risk. You won. But then the London Metal Exchange did something that shattered trust in the financial system forever. At 8:15 a.m., they suspended trading. That was the halt we talked about. But that wasn't enough to save the banks. The losses were already booked. The trades had already cleared. So at 12 p.m., they did the unthinkable. They didn't just stop the game. They rewound the tape. They sent out a notice declaring that all trades executed between midnight and 8:15 a.m. were canceled, null and void, disrupted. Just like that, $3.9 billion of legitimate profits were erased from existence. They reached into the accounts of the winners, took the money out, and gave it back to the losers. They broke the trades to save the too big to fail. Twitter exploded. Traders were furious. Hedge fund managers were screaming on CNBC. They called it theft. They called it a rigged casino. And do you know what happened to the LME? Nothing. The courts ruled in their favor. They said the exchange has the right to maintain orderly markets, even if that means stealing your profit to save a bank from insolvency. That is the blueprint. That is the precedent. If they are willing to burn down the reputation of a 145-year-old exchange just to save a nickel tycoon, what do you think they will do when silver, the Achilles heel of the entire banking system, goes to 100? They won't just halt it, they will reset it. And if you are holding a paper contract when that happens, you aren't an investor, you are the bag holder. Now, let's fast forward to Sunday night at 9 p.m. The exchange is halted. The force majeure rumors are flying. What happens in the real world? This is where we see the great decoupling. This is where the matrix breaks. You panic. You realize your paper contracts are trapped. So, you decide to buy physical metal. You go to the big online dealers, Kitco, ApeMex, JM Bullion. You have your credit card ready, but when you type in the URL, you don't see silver bars. You see a white screen with black text. System maintenance. Site under construction. Due to extreme market volatility, we are currently unable to accept new orders. They aren't doing maintenance, they are pulling the plug. Why would a dealer sell you an ounce of silver for $70 if they know the real price tomorrow might be $150? They won't. They freeze their inventory. They hoard the metal for themselves. So you close your laptop and you go to the streets. You go to your local coin shop. You go to private forums. And that is where you see the real price. On CNBC, the ticker still says $67.14, so halted. But on the street, I'll give you $100 for that eagle. No deal. How about $120? Not selling. Suddenly, the spot price, that number we have worshipped for decades, becomes a museum artifact. It is a fossil. It is a ghost number that represents a world that no longer exists. It becomes like the official exchange rate in Venezuela or Zimbabwe. The government says $1 is worth 10 bolivars. The street says it's worth 10,000. In that moment, if you are holding paper silver, you own the museum artifact. You own a claim on a price that nobody honors. But if you are holding physical silver, you name the price. You are the market maker now. The power shifts from the institutions to the individuals in a matter of hours. This is the chaos of the decoupling. The screen says one thing, reality says another. And the gap between them, that is the measure of the system's collapse. So here we are. The Sunday nightmare is not a question of if, but when. The shorts are trapped, the physical supply is gone, the rules are being rewritten against you. What is your battle plan? First, do not panic when the market reopens. If the banks manage to engineer a massive gap down, if they dump paper contracts to smash the price from $67 back to $50 in a desperate attempt to shake you out, do not sell. That is a bear trap. They want your physical metal. They want you to get scared and hand over your real assets for their fake paper. Recognize it for what it is, a psychological operation. Second, and most importantly, if you hold physical silver, you are the king. In a world of counterparty risk, in a world of canceled trades and frozen accounts, the only asset you truly own is the one you can hold in your hand. If you have it, sit on it. Do not trade it for fiat currency unless that currency is being used to buy land, food, or freedom. Do not sell your lifeboat to buy a ticket on the Titanic. The Sunday nightmare is the final test. It is the moment the system tries to buck you off one last time before the true price discovery begins. If you can survive the halts, the glitches, and the legal threats, if you can make it through those 48 hours of darkness without losing your position, you will step out onto the other side of history. The transfer of wealth is happening. The paper game is ending. The physical reality is taking over. Are you prepared for the lights to go out? I've compiled a confidential list of the 3 warning signs that a specific exchange is about to declare insolvency. These are the red flags the insiders look for 24 hours before the public knows. I cannot share this on YouTube. It is too sensitive, but I will send it to my private subscribers tonight. If you want to know if your broker is safe, click the link in the description and sign up for the exclusive alert. Do it now before the Sunday sun sets. Good luck and keep stacking.